Hey everyone, this is Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself. Today I want to show you how to pull out the carpet out of a 2000 Toyota 4Runner and replace your carpet. Now what I'm showing you now is just the old carpet. It's that tannish color or beige color, however you want to say it. And you can see there are some stains here and there. So after 20 years, it's time to replace it. Here's how the back looks. So for the rear cargo area, first start with the threshold, take off a few screws. Once you take all those screws out, the threshold just pulls up. And there's the back of the seat. And we had to make new plywood sheets. We ended up getting them at a home improvement store. They were, I think, about 8-inch thick. 8-inch or 1/4 inch. But once you try to pull them off the carpet, they just tear right up. They break apart. So you'll have to replace them. And then once you get the threshold off, you can start taking out some of the other pieces on the sides. And they either snap out or they have bolts in them that you can take out. And if you have a 10mm up to about 15mm, you'll have all the sockets that you need, and of course a socket wrench. So here I'm just cutting out the holes, and that's where that threshold fits in, those small holes there. And then those are for the tie downs, the ones up above there. And then what we ended up doing was getting the backing on the new material, so that helps with the soundproofing, but they go a little bit overboard on the sides, so you've got to really trim it down to make it look a lot like the old one that you pull out. That way it'll all fit into place. So here, taking out the seats, and there's just two bolts, and more bolts there you just take out, along with the seat belt. And this is the passenger side rear, that threshold there, and there's another threshold. Just take the screws out and then it pulls right up. And there's a bunch of wiring in there because I ended up wiring a headrest monitor for that passenger seat. Now these just snap out. Now you just go to the back and then lift that up and out. And this whole project took about 2 days. It is best if you have 2 people, that way they can help you cut and lift the carpet out, but it is definitely doable with 1 person. It'll just take you a little bit more time. Now you can see some of the areas are stapled with the plastic hooks stuck into the frame there. And all that is just to hold the carpet in position, so when you're getting in and out of the vehicle, it won't slip on you and it won't pull away from the thresholds. I'll just speed this up. Just taking off the bolt and the seat belt there. And then there's that wiring for the headrest monitor. And I didn't show it in here, but I just opened up the back of the seat, and then there is a connection in there that I pulled out and then disconnected it. And these are caps for the seat belts. Now they have one on each side. There's two in the front and two in the rear, and those are on each seat. And they'll push down and out. And then you've got wiring for your weight sensor, or just to tell you when there's something in your passenger seat. And you're going to have that on both sides. You're going to have wiring on both sides that you have to remove. If I remember right, these bolts are all the same. I could be wrong though, so you may want to keep the bolts so you can identify them later. And then the seat just lifts out. And then the center console comes out. There's just a couple wires to disconnect. And then you have two on the sides, two screws to come out on both sides. And then you've got two bolts in the center console to pull out. And then the back tab you'll pull off for the heat. And then you can lift that center console out. Now there's your front kick panel. And then this panel comes off. And then once you get all those panels out, you should be able to pull out the carpet. Now they used a bunch of adhesive. They sprayed that backing to the middle console area there. So what I'm doing, I'm just pushing it away from the console. And then they stapled it up front there underneath the dash. You just pull that. And then it's up to you if you wanted to staple it and then put those plastic clips back in. We decided not to do it, but if we have carpet moving a lot on us, then we'll definitely put those clips and staple them back into position. And you can tell the original color, of course, forest green. And there's the heater on the passenger side there. Floor heater for the back. Okay, and here's a look at just all of it with the carpet removed. And you have all that wiring, and that wiring is, there's an amp and a speaker or a subwoofer. All that wiring is in there. And then you got your fuel pump and your jack. And here's a look at just some of the change that was in there. And then all the carpeting removed. You can see it's a lot of stains, a lot of mess. It's in need of replacement for sure. Okay, and here is just putting it over the top of it. And I would recommend it just if you want to get an idea and maybe start cutting a little bit. But whatever you do, don't cut off any excess, over what you see on top. So don't cut any extra. And then always allow for some extra on the back wheel humps. Okay. So we did cut out the center console, putting the center console back on, and that just pushes in. And all those pieces just push in and click together. And then you got the 2 screws on the left and the 2 screws on the right. And then most of this was cut with just scissors, carpet knife, some shears, and you just stretch it and just cut a little bit at a time. And then those are the holes in the bolts for the seats. And that bolts for the seat belt there. And then I'm just going to show you here how I went about cutting. So it was a long process, just marking it with a pick and using a carpet knife, doing a little X, and then using some cutters, using some wire cutters to actually cut the carpet out. So it was time consuming. And this was for each bolt. And then you'll just want to get it up to that edge of the threshold there. And that piece got put back in, that back threshold got put in. Or that's the front driver's side threshold. And then you have an anti-slip mat up front that was included with the carpet. And this color is charcoal, but you can go through different companies to buy your carpet, and there's just all different colors available. So this is charcoal. And there's just a cutout for the jack. And it will form fit if you get the carpets that are form fitting. So at least you have a rough idea on, where to put it in. And that's what I would recommend. Just get it into those spots that are form fitting and then work your way outward from there. That really helped us when we did this. Now what I did, I just put all the bolts in, took the bolts out. I went ahead and put the seat in and just tighten up the bolts a little bit. I wouldn't tighten them all down, just get them all started, and that way you have everything lined up. And once you get them all started, of course, you can put the wiring connector back together, or back on. There's a good look at that wiring connector. And then what ended up happening is that we cut the square or circle, whatever you want to call it, a little bit too big for that vent behind the passenger seat there. So I went ahead and ended up fixing it. I put a bunch of the padding in there just to take up some space. And of course, I would recommend just cutting a slit in that area, and that way you can go around it a little bit better and shove it underneath. You can shove that carpet underneath instead of actually cutting out a square for that vent. So I went ahead and just shoved a bunch of padding underneath it, and then cut a piece of extra carpet. And then if you have some 3M, some spray adhesive, I ended up just spraying the edges or the corners of this carpet. I cut it down a little bit more to fit underneath there better. Yeah, this is a little time consuming, but I wanted to show you just the technique I used to fix it. If you have an issue with something that you overcut, you are able to fix it. But of course, just go slow, so hopefully you don't have that type of issue. I ended up using just a small piece. So after I used the spray adhesive on the sides, I just pushed it in there the best I could. And then you just try to get it to blend in with the other carpet. And this is going to be behind the seat, so it's not very noticeable, but if you move the seat all the way forward, you're able to see it. And so I'm trying to pick out the extra adhesive that just got on the top of the carpet. And then I end up just taking off some little pieces of carpet off some of the new stuff, some of the overage, and then I just put it on top with some spray adhesive, just to blend it in a little bit better. Just to make it look good. And you can see the back wheel wells. Those weren't cut down very much. And you can see the cuts for the seat belts and for the seats. Now the back of the seats, those plastic pieces just broke, and like I said, the wood piece that was back there just broke apart too. So we ended up not doing that yet, but that is a project that will be happening soon. And then all the bubbles that the carpet, or the ridges that the carpet are, they look like they're up. Those will settle down after a while. So I'm just showing you where the tie downs are at. And there's two up farther up too. So there's two near the rear and then two behind the seats. Well, this has been Mike from Mike's Do Yourself. I hope this has been helpful. Good luck on your next home or automotive project. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment.